going back to ZopNow journey. So as you know, you launched the company, you got into grocery retail. The retail had a lot of tailwind. You grew, got to a significant scale, but you were trying to build the company with a very frugal mindset and optimizing for bottom line, not for top line. But the environment is different. Only currency at that time was, it has changed now, thankfully. At that time, how fast you're growing, what is your month-over-month growth rate, week-over-week growth rate, and so on, right? Irrespective of how much money you're burning. And somewhere you made different choices, which was not optimal for that time. At some point, you raised some money, but eventually the game became, can you raise hundreds of millions of dollars? And because you were not playing a scale game, you were not able to raise and then company went to, I think, deep introspection phase for, I think 2016 to 18.
Almost, yeah.
So let's go through that period in slow motion, because by the time you were spent 4 or 5 years trying to build ZopNow, and things were not lining up well. At some point, a lot of even your internal investors, external investors were not supporting the company. I think you put in a lot of your personal money for the company to survive. So what was your inner dialogue, and what was what struggles you went through in those 2-3 years?
So that was certainly like struggle, maybe not the most appropriate choice of what I would still say kind of thing. Like it was, or maybe it was a good thing, was it was, maybe struggle is the right word, but it was not tensed, right? So it was, वो हिंदी में वो आता है ना, पहले समाचार में आता था, right? स्थिति तनावपूर्ण
नियंत्रण में है, तो तुमने नियंत्रण में आके रखा।
तो थोड़ी तनावपूर्ण थी, but नियंत्रण था. Let's put it that way. I think तनाव था, right? Like a तनाव, right? And the if you look at that era, right? Like 2016, this thing, right? When a whole lot of things was about growth, right? Personally, like I like this saying, right? You can't go to a madrasa and say they are not teaching a Bible, right? Because उनको वही समझ में आ रहा था, right? उनको वही समझ में आ रहा था कि growth is the only thing. So I had no rights to complain that one. And in their own rights, they were doing the right thing, right? Like for the funds of the so on and so forth, this thing, right? So the fact that I had that maturity that you can't go to a madrasa and say they are not teaching the Bible, right? That was good, because then I knew. But on the same note, right? I believed in what we were building that up, kind of thing, right? So was I frustrated that we were not? Certainly, we tried to raise money. It's not that we didn't try. Like it would be very foolish of me to say it was 15 million पे हम खुश थे, kind of thing, right? So, but we were not able to raise money, right? So I was very clear that were we desperate to raise money? Absolutely, we were desperate to raise that money. But on the same note, I didn't want to raise money on a bunch of lies that I didn't believe in, right? So it would have been very easy for me to go and say कि अच्छा ये कीजिए और उसके बाद मैं growth पे ही focus करूँगा, kind of thing. And then after raising the money, I go back to which is, by the way, what one of the investors did tell me, right? I know for sure that even if you raise money, you will be bloody focused on doing the tech.
So wait and switch for marriage was okay, but not for raising money.
Not for raising money, right? So there is a bit of dichotomy over there, but I was clear कि वो नहीं करेंगे, kind of, right? So that certainly made things quite tense, right? Like in the process, we lost some good employees as well, which was very painful, because obviously the market was hot, kind of thing, right? So lots of people left as well, kind of thing. Some of them were really good, kind of, right? So certainly that was quite disappointing कि लोग जा रहे हैं, but I understand, like if somebody is paying you 5x the salary, then why not, kind of, right? So investors were not convinced, we couldn't raise money, kind of thing. Employees were not sort of like sticking to us, kind of thing, right? But the most important part was I still had that belief, like seeing that even with not that we were very large when it came to the grocery, right? But the specific segment of customer, which was like the convenience seeker, right? I knew that this product में कुछ दम है, right? So I knew that there is a fundamental business that can be built on top of it, kind of thing, right? So, and again, if I look at why is it happening in over there, is because of the investment that we had done in the technology, right? So some of it was belief, right? Honestly, some of it was also stupidness, kind of thing, right? The right thing, like sometimes you can go back, like now ZopSmart is doing well, but let's assume if it was not doing well, people will say, यार 2016 में आप कहीं भी चले जाते हैं, आपको कोई अच्छी मिल जाती है, right? You could have joined one of these emerging companies at a senior level, kind of thing, and still made a good amount of money, so on and so forth, kind of thing, right? But I had that inherent belief that what we're building is good.
So how long did that period last where you were kind of in the doldrums, not sure what the future of the company, but you were not giving up? I think you started putting a lot of your personal capital.
Almost it was a good 2 years.
2 years.
So between 2016 to 18, kind of thing, as I said, like, except for the 2 million of stash that I kept for the family, like I still had some money left, kind of thing, which I said, and I genuinely feel, right, like, that the company is my baby, right? Just like, so for me, putting in outside the money I had for Julie and Aman, kind of, right? I said कि बस ये तो पैसा इसी बच्चे के लिए है, kind of, right? तो मतलब कि if my kid needs the money, right, kind of thing, why will I not invest, kind of thing, right? So putting the money was the easier part of the decision, kind of thing, right? Laying the tracks was the tougher part, kind of thing, right? कि क्या करना है, kind of thing. So I knew that what we had done something was valuable, kind of thing. I knew that this business ठीक है, मतलब we were looking at the convenience seeker, which is a smaller set, but थोड़े पैसे इसमें है. But also I knew that this business is not very large, at least from the Indian context perspective, right? I knew that the discount seekers is almost like 95% of business, 5% is in over here. So if I really want to raise money for survival, so on and so forth, इस पे focus करते, right? So that practicality was there. But on the same note, I understood कि boss, that is not my DNA, right? कि मतलब कि भेड़िया को कितना भी शेर की खाल पहना दो, भेड़िया ही रहने वाला है, kind of thing, right? So कि बस ये नहीं है, right? And I knew कि that will be a slippery slope, right? कि झूठ बोल के पैसा रेस कर लिए, उसके बाद I have to live that life, kind of thing, and that I was not willing. And I had some cash, I said कि चलो ये डाल के देख लेता, right? So I knew value है, I didn't know how to monetize that value, kind of thing, right? And that's where I would say two things, right? Like that's a very low phase, kind of thing, right? Like
did you have like self-doubt at that point?
It would be lie to say कि I didn't have self-doubt, right? Like so I had थोड़ा था ऐसा मतलब कि is it that, and as you said, right, कि 20 साल हो गए without anything significant to show, kind of thing, right? So तो थोड़ा self doubt था कि is it the right thing, so on and so forth. But more than the self doubt, sometimes I used to feel bad about the family, right? And this pure honest truth, kind of thing, right? We had money, ऐसा नहीं था कि ये है, but I'd always say कि यार नहीं, पैसे है तो ZopSmart में डालना, Zopno में डालना, kind of thing, right? So sometimes I'll feel bad that when I see, like, not that like my wife or the kid will complain, right? You'll see your colleagues going to यूरोप जा रहे हैं, कोई छुट्टी मनाने जा रहे हैं और हम लोग कुर्ग जा रहे हैं, कहते हैं, तो थोड़ा कभी कभी लगता था.
अभी क्यों नहीं जाते यूरोप?
एक का दुक्का बार गए, kind of thing, but I by the way गए, and then I finally decided कि कुर्ग is better than Europe, right? I'm not like that. दोनों का अपना है, but the point was कि वो था थोड़ा खराब लगता था, right? तो जैसे कि यार, because I knew that because of financial reason we are not making that trip, chalo, let's get done with that, right? So that sometimes used to bother me, कि is it the right thing that I'm doing for the family, because this time Naman is never going to be 4 years old, right? But so वो तभी कभी खराब लगता था कि यार ये is it the right thing, you know? So those things used to hurt. But when I looked at, like, given that, like, I literally considered, right, that Zopno is my second kid, right? So when I look at the second kid, I said, no, इसमें डालना है इसमें, right? So
चलो, good, you clarified 2 kids.
kids.
You kept saying kids and I was wondering.
So this is the second kid, like, and by the way, like, both Naman and Zopno are, like, Naman is born in August 2011, Zopno is September, right? So these are, like, literally for me, these are twins, right? So उसमें डाला, ठीक है, right? So लगा था कि वैल्यू है, but इसको कैसे मोनेटाइज करना वो नहीं था, right? And that low period, kind of thing, right? There is, and you'll be surprised you said that. Like, I'm not sure if you know this, right? Have you heard this thing, right? Not, let me see if I can recite it correctly. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted.
Wow.
Guess who had said that? Albert Einstein. You not expect to count, right? So not everything that can be counted, like, so मतलब हम लोग इतने चीज ये करते हैं, does it really count, right? Like, you can even count about business metrics, that, like, does it really count in the long run, this thing, right? Even from business, right? कि 500 metrics देखते हैं, reality में 2-3 ही metrics are the most important, right? And same thing, that 2016-18 was the second part of the phrase, right? Not everything that counts can be counted, right? So for instance, like 16-18 I realized, right, the values of friendship, right? Do you have a 5 AM friend, right? जैसे मतलब you're in a low point of your life, kind of thing, right? कि कोई है घर में जाके किसी के घर में या 6 बजे सुबह, यार कि I'm not going to talk, can we just have a cup of coffee and then I'll going to leave, kind of, right? So मतलब sometimes I call you, sometimes you can. So that phase made me realize the second part of the Einstein quote, right? कि if you have, do you really have those people, right? Do you really have those people, like, who are literally uncountable, kind of thing? Like, these are the people who really counts, right? So that, more than the business, taught me a lot about the human relationship, right? Like, so तो एक हो गया थोड़ा सा इमोशनल वाला पार्ट, एक हो गया थोड़ा वैल्यू वाला पार्ट की ये था, बट द कॉन्फिडेंस वाज स्टिल देयर कि द वैल्यू इज गोइंग टू बी देयर, राइट? But the most important part was the luck thing, right? So what happened was for us was like that was the phase, right? So we knew that we have a good product, kind of, right? And again, remember, right? And I think I mentioned before, right? My email signature used to be Jai Hind throughout, right? So I was so much like focused on India, kind of thing, right? And then like pure luck, this thing, right? Amazon was in the process of acquiring Whole Foods, right? So all of a sudden, from the business environment perspective, everybody started to feel, right? कि पहले लगता था कि omni channel is a good to have, right? For if you go and talk to a retailer, they'll say अरे हाँ है, लेकिन मतलब either there'll be two camps, right? People say या तो online ही चलने वाला है, या offline वाले बोलेंगे यार online is a flash in the pan, online में बोलेंगे we are there for long term, but दोनों में संबंध नहीं था, right? When Amazon acquired Whole Foods, right, when the process was happening, right, all of a sudden every retailer started to think यार Walmart एक बड़ा offline store था, वो online घुस रहा है, Amazon was used to be all online, वो offline घुस रहा है, तो मतलब कि कुछ तो चल रहा है, right? कि सबसे बड़ा ऑफलाइन वाला इधर जा रहा है यार, तो आई हैव टू बी पार्ट ऑफ द स्ट्रेटजी, राइट? प्योर लक, वी वर एट द राइट पॉइंट विद द राइट थिंग विद द राइट सॉल्यूशन, राइट? At Zom, like what we had built, thanks to the 6-7 years of technology investment, we had the perfect stack. We had the perfect stack to say, ki, look, if you are an offline retailer, we can start your omni-channel journey in literally 4 weeks, kind of, right? More than the Amazon stock value. The fact that Amazon looked at the Whole Foods thing, that was our best marketing tool. Because उसके पहले किसी के पास, we knew that this is valuable and we were trying to sell so on and so forth करना थे, तो उसके पहले हाँ सोचेंगे, करेंगे, ये करेंगे, right? उसके बाद जहाँ हो ना, good to have to must to have, right? All of a sudden, in a span of 1 quarter, everybody was saying, boss, omni-channel is not good to have, it's a must to.
Right. So by the time, because you were investing in your tech stack, you had the technology ready, and a lot of these, international grocery retailers, they wanted to become omni-channel players, and you connected with them, you start selling your technology stack, and you basically become a SaaS company. So first was, you said, that lonely period of 2 years. I think every startup goes through that. I don't know any successful startup which does not go through those, 2-3 year period. And I feel, I'm including Amazon, went to Amazon at the brink of, dying at some point, right? So I think the startup character gets built. You also really figure out who you are. Like then you really get tested. You have to ask deep questions, ki main kaun hu, and that introspection, self-reflection, what really matters to me, what doesn't matter to me, all the fluff, all the pseudo concept and everything goes away, and you are just in front of naked reality. Like कि एकदम आटे दाल का भाव तुम्हारे के literally आटे दाल का होता है, but सबको पता चल जाता है, right? And that being able to survive. Now surviving is not necessarily purely skill. It's little bit of persistence, little bit of support system that you talked about, a little bit of really be honest to yourself what matters to you and what doesn't matter to you. But the companies that come out of that, usually tend to do really well afterwards, because all the fluffy stuff goes out of the way. You are much more focused, you are only more authentic. So that's one part. Like anyone who's, I think, thinking of starting a career in entrepreneurship need to mentally prepare. In fact, I'll tell you, one story from Cult. So for us, because I was second-time entrepreneurs and we raised a lot of money, first 4 years went like, just everything went well. I used to talk to Ankit, यार सब स्टार्टअप में जहाँ तक मुझे पता है, you go through very tough phase. हमारा कब आएगा, तो हमारा तो दिखने लगा आते हुए, and then COVID happens, right? 2 years of like literally drop from the sky, and we have to go through that, reinvent the company and all of that. So I think that one is important part. Second is, you said luck played a very big role, which also not to be undermined. So you stayed in the game for 10 years, so you were kind of prepared to get lucky, right? If you didn't invest in technology stack, if you shut down the company in 2017, even if Amazon did the Whole Foods thing, you would not have benefit from that. So like putting yourself in that position over a long period of time, so that you will actually catch that lucky break when it happens.
And this brings an important point, Kanate, right? Like, so I agree. Like if you're there for long term, like Kanate, I'm yet to come. Lambe time, it will play out. It will eventually play out, Kanate, right? And whenever you're looking at a problem statement or whatever you're doing, Kanate, right? It took me time to figure it out that the word uncertain and risk are two different meanings, right? पहले लगता है कि uncertain risk same ही चीज़ है, right? Risk is like rolling a dice and then उसमें कि यार एक का कितने chance है, and you say 1/6 का, if it's a fair dice, it's 1/6 करना, right? Uncertain में है कि outcome आपको पता नहीं है, right? So lots of time you are at a phase wherein things are uncertain, right? कि क्या होगा, पता ही नहीं क्या होने वाला है, कि because dice में तो पता है कि 1 out of 6 is going to come out, right? So you should be clear what are the times when things are uncertain and what are the times things are risky, right? So 2016 to 18 period was a lot of uncertainty, right? Because we didn't know कि क्या है, right? But if you start thinking deep into that one, right, eventually you will move from that uncertain period to the risk one, right? So for me, like personally, the big thing was removing away the Jai Hind, right? The fixation, right? And it was a very emotional decision for me, right? Like कि Jai Hind पूरे 12 साल से लिख रहा है kind of thing. Removing that, and my now email signature has a very neutral one, regards kind of thing, right? It may look like two words getting changed into one kind of thing, so on and so forth. But for me, it was a very, very big emotional this thing, right? And that, like the moment, because it was a mindset change, right? कि मतलब while I knew even after the Timeline Studios experiment, it has to be global, so on and so forth kind of thing. But पूरा समाया नहीं था, right?
And that also, resonates well with me. I think the way I am now looking at India opportunity, we use this phrase for India or from India. I think both are leveraging, India potential, India strength. The bigger you become as a global company, you're earning in dollars, you're creating so much employment opportunity here. So that is also almost very directly contribute to India impact. Just coming back to ZopSmart, right? So you basically become this SaaS company. You had this omni-channel tech stack, which some of these, global grocery retailers found very differentiated. And now you're doing, somewhere in the, range of $100 million annual revenue, 60% margin business, just, few of you guys own the company. Literally your destiny is in your hand. So having gone through the journey and having now this platform, as I'm saying, I'm realizing, the only heavily cash flow companies, positive companies are all start with Z. Zo, Zerodha, now ZopSmart. अगला Z से चालू करूँगा, जो भी करूँगा।
Z से चालू
That's the only way to make money. नहीं तो obviously पैसा उतरना पड़ेगा और आप करोगे।